Hi guys, this is gsn.com and I'm here with a review of the Nokia 8, the flagship for the year 2017 from Nokia under the umbrella of HMD Global. So this phone was launched in October last year. It's the first flagship from the HMD Global age. We have it in a blue version. It's got a Snapdragon 835, Zeiss dual camera, metal body, 5.3-inch screen, and the price right now has gone very low to $400, sometimes $430. So on Amazon at least. This debuted with Nougat and now it has Android Oreo via an update, and it stands out via features like the BOFI or whatever they call it. The capture with the back camera and the front camera at the same time, plus the OZO audio recording when you're filming, especially in the 4K. Now let's talk about the phone itself. Nokia 8, it's made of 6000 series aluminum. It's resilient in the IP54 standard for splashes, and it goes to 40 special stages of work till becoming this. The main impression is that we're dealing with one metal piece device. So it's made from a single piece of metal, a single slab. It's got a very curvy back, and this format, curvy back and flat front sides, reminds me of the HTC Windows Phone 8X, if you remember it, only made of metal. The top and bottom have big bezels, as you can see here. It feels antiquated, those buttons here, the home, the recent and the back one. And other than that, I have to say that the thickness is 7.9 millimeters. It weighs 160 grams. Both are okay for a 5.3-inch handset. It feels very light, feels very comfy, has a pretty solid grip, and I love the feedback of the buttons on the side. Other than that, I have to say that it's well built, it doesn't make compromises, and this camera is pretty discreet compared to other dual camera modern phones out there. The design is surely polarizing, some people will call it antiquated. I think it's okay, it's elegant, comfy and premium enough for me. Now on the display front, we actually go to the front. It's a 5.3-inch polarized screen with Gorilla Glass 5 protection. It uses an IPS LCD panel with a 2560/1440 pixel resolution. It's a gently curved 2.5D panel with pretty big bezels by current standards, and the actual viewing experience will be put to the test right about now. So we go to our typical video sample, and we experience pretty okay brightness, wide viewing angles, not bad contrast even in full sunlight. The colors were a bit on the cold side, and I feel that there's too much white here muddying the waters compared to a Super AMOLED maybe, and the black is certainly not deep. Under the microscope we registered RGB stripes pixel arrangement, and the lux meter test showed us a value of 536 lux units, which is great. It's superior to the Galaxy Note 8 and the iPhone 8 Plus, at least in our tests, but inferior to the Sony Xperia XZ1 and the iPhone 8. We also have special settings for the very same screen. So we go here and we got your brightness level, night light, adaptive brightness, wallpaper, plus advanced things like glance. If you remember, glance was present back in the day, even on the Lumias. Overall quite bright, but the colors are a bit on the cold side, and also a bit of a small diagonal by current standards. Now, as far as the other hardware is concerned, I feel the need to mention we're dealing with a real flagship. I'm talking about Snapdragon 835. I'm talking about 4GB of RAM or 6GB of RAM in other versions. We have the 4GB RAM one. There's 64GB of storage here. There is a micro SD card slot, and also we didn't experience any lag. The experience was quite fluid and things looked and ran just fine. We have here screenshots of the various aspects of the phone, settings, benchmarks and so forth. So remember that Snapdragon 835, 4GB of RAM, 64GB of storage of the UFS 2.1 kind. No lag whatsoever, no problem, pretty snappy functioning thanks to the stock OS, and by the way, it's Oreo this time. So aside from not freezing or lagging, games ran like a champ. I'm talking not only about Replay GP Renegade, but also another game we played, which is called Free Fire Battlegrounds. It's a clone of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and that's got some pedigree because it's intensive graphically and looked great. You can find a review on our sister site androidpub.com. You can see here a pretty high frame rate. I don't see any stutter. Nice looking water effects. You can turn the graphics all the way up to ultra or whatever the highest level is, and you'll see no problem. Of course, having a smaller diagonal also helps. Okay, we are done with the gaming. Time to see what the benchmarks are like, because we also did those. So We did Antutu, you know, the famous benchmark. So in Antutu, a very good result, actually the 4th place all time. It beats the HTC U11, Galaxy Note 8, Galaxy S8, scores below the iPhones, basically iPhone 8 and iPhone 10. In Geekbench 4, in the multi-core test, we got a pretty impressive result. This one here, 6463. It's actually placed on the 10th spot, beats the Google Pixel 2 XL and Galaxy S8 Plus, still scores below the Huawei Mate 10 Pro and the iPhone 8. Now we also did graphical benchmarks, I'm talking about Slingshot, etc. and a bunch more tests. You can find them all in the full text review. To remember that in the Slingshot test we were able to score on the 3rd place. We beat the Galaxy S8 and the Xiaomi Mi 5, but the HTC U11 managed to beat us somehow, and even more benchmarks are found here. Slingshot, as I told you before, and more. It's certainly a phone that's top 5 material for 2017 and probably top 10 material for the first half of the current year. Now when it comes to the temperature, we did not have problems. We achieved 39.1 degrees Celsius in GFX bench, so there's no overheating. And we achieved 35.2 degrees Celsius after we played the game you saw before, Riptide, so no overheating yet again. Now on the battery front, this compact little phone has a 3090 mAh battery, which is quite large for a 5.3 incher, quick charge 3.0, 18-watt charger bundled, and the video playback time we achieved, let's actually see it. Go here, nope, and let's see the exact time achieved. Did a bunch of tests, so here we go. We were able to achieve a time of 10 hours 53 minutes of continuous HD playback, like if you're watching a video on the device. It's superior to the Huawei Mate 9 Pro and the Motorola Moto Z, but inferior to the Huawei P10 Lite and the Galaxy J5 2016. We also did a PC Mark test, which simulates continuous usage. A bit underwhelming, 7 hours 7 minutes. It's mediocre, or not mediocre, on the medium spectrum. It's superior to the HTC 10, Galaxy S6 Edge and the P9 Lite, inferior to the Motorola Moto Z Play, which actually doubles this time, and the Nokia 5. Yes, it scores below the Nokia 5. The charging is okay in my book, 1 hour 52 minutes, the equal of the Galaxy S7, and if you're charging the phone in 1 hour, you achieved 73% battery charge, which is not bad. Now we go further here to the battery. Check out its options. We got battery saver, background activity manager, battery percentage, and battery optimization. Typical stock affair. I would say it's a mixed experience with okay playback and okay charging. On the acoustics front, as far as I know, there's a singular speaker here. This is the one outputting all the music. We also have a 3.5mm audio jack, in case you're wondering, a bundled pair of headphones, which you saw in the unboxing. They look quite fine, although they're rather typical compared to other headphones like those tuned by AKG, which Samsung bundles, or those cool ones offered by HTC. So this speaker here can be covered a bit if you hold the phone in landscape, and if you want to do some playback, you're going to have to resort to Google Play Music. And of course, all of the famous equalizer settings are here. We got your 5 custom channels, we got your FX booster, you got rock, hip hop, jazz, heavy metal, and more customizations. There's bass boost, surround sound, and reverb available as well. Now let's go straight to the actual listening experience. Okay, conclusions. The volume is quite high here, the back doesn't vibrate, there's no distortion, things are loud and clear, and too bad we do not have stereophony. The bass is, I would say, rather okay, and now it's time to see what our decibel meter has shown. Okay, so we go here, we got several results. We got 83.6 decibels at the bottom of the phone, bottom and back, and also the front, I guess, and then we have 72 decibels, which is at the top of the phone. We take into account the high value, the 83.6 decibels, and this one puts us above the OnePlus 3 and the Huawei P10, but also below the Galaxy A3 2017 and the iPhone 6. Now, a more impressive result, actually way more impressive, was achieved in Riptide GP Renegade. So we achieved this result in Reply GP Renegade, 107.1 decibels. This is actually the best result ever achieved at GSM.com. It's huge. It beats even the Motorola Moto Z phones with their special JBL modules. It's basically gigantic. Should beat computers, speakers, laptops, whatever. Goes past every other model. Now the headphones have a rather standard design. They're quite loud and clear. They're nothing truly special compared to the Samsung Galaxy 8 or HTC U11 ones. Okay, we're done with the acoustics. Time to talk about the camera. Everybody's talking about the camera. It's not every day that you get to see a Zeiss optics device. So dual camera at the back with a dual tone flash. There's the infrared sensor here. One of them is a 13 megapixel color sensor with OIS. The other one is a 13 megapixel sensor with monochrome capture. We got 1.12 micron pixels, f2.0 aperture, face detection autofocus, and that's the back side. The front side features a 13 megapixel camera with face detection autofocus of its own, f2.0 aperture, Zeiss lens as well, and when you're filming, especially 4K, you'll have also audio capture at 360 degrees. Now, let's clean up the act here and fire up the camera, which as you can see does not start up very fast, just reasonably fast. I would say that the focus is pretty snappy, not Galaxy S8 or S7 snappy, but okay. Not a big fan of the camera UI, feels a bit old and antiquated for 2017 or 2018. The picture taking is sometimes fast, but I also experienced it being slow. The zoom is okay in my book. And the actual options include the ability to switch between cameras. You can choose the color one, the mono one, and you can choose twin to use both of them. And speaking of things to choose, you can also use this special mode here. It's called dual. You're taking shots with both the front and the back camera at the same time. It's a gimmick I used to see all the time on lower end phones. So we also have HDR, obviously, and a bunch of other settings, some of them pretty original, like compass, altitude, level, grid, watermark, and so forth, plus resolution, of course. Speaking of resolution, you can film in 4K with a front camera, not something you see every day, even on a flagship. And here are the main modes. There's beautify, panorama, photos, and live bokeh, and manual, which lets you tweak the focus, white balance, exposure, and metering. And live bokeh, it's what the name says, so you take a shot here and you blur the background using this slider, and that's that. Okay, we're done with the options. Not very impressed by the interface, so let's see if the pictures are any good. Okay, so we go to device folders, camera, and as you can see, we have a ton of pictures. I'm going to start off with the selfies. For some reason I start with the selfies. I have to say I'm not very impressed. They're a bit gray, not very detailed, also not impressed by the texture of the skin and the hair. These initial selfies were taken in the shade, those taken in the sun are just a bit better, but overall the first contact with selfies not very impressive. Okay, we go further. In light they look more okay, but some of them are blurry, which kind of bothers me. That's the dual capture from before, back camera and front camera working together. This is HDR in action. First shot, HDR shot, working quite fine. And what I like about this picture is that there's no extra processing like we saw on the Galaxy A5 2017. Things are not processed like we also saw maybe on the iPhone 8 Plus. Colors are pretty realistic and natural. Some shots were blurred. It took a while sometimes to get the close-ups, but in general I was happy with the quality of close-ups. Details are actually one of the better things about the phone. Even though the resolution is not high, the details are quite okay. The black and white photos are on the level of, let's say, a Huawei P9, not more than that. Some blurred shots annoy me. You should not have blurred shots on a flagship, that's for sure. More colorful stuff here. Okay, color calibration, some dynamic range problem is in the background, and quite a few shots to admire. Of course, we also did the whole bokeh thing. Okay, so we actually have the option here. You're supposed to be able to tap to refocus easily, and with the background blur is okay, but I've seen much better on maybe Huawei phones and other handsets out there. A few more selfies, some shots in the landscape variety, and here you can tell the dynamic range is not very impressive. By the way, these shots are actually quite dark for daytime ones. However, if you start to zoom in on any of them, you'll be happy with the details for sure. I want to go back to bokeh a bit, just to mention the fact that I'm not hugely impressed with the capture here. Yes, it's a regular shot, yes, it's a bokeh shot, but the blur seems rather superficial to me, even though it's achieved an actual dual camera, unlike some phones out there which only use software. Few more shots, zooming into this building, okay, details. Overall, I have to admit, I expected more. From all the hype I've heard, this being a Nokia and all, being a flagship, having Zeiss camera, I wanted more. In the end, it can fight second tier flagships from last year, maybe the LG G6, maybe the Huawei P10, it even feels below them sometimes. Better said, it can fight the Zenfone 4 from ASUS, and maybe Motorola C2 Play or other handsets like that. Sometimes it feels like a Huawei P9 Lite, and that's not a compliment. Now that we're done with the daytime cameras, daytime photos, excuse me, let's go to the low light captures. Some of you may be expecting things to get better at night. Well, it's f2.0 aperture after all, so images are a bit dark. Street light halos are okay, details are good once again. The flash handles the images in a pretty nice manner. Let's see it. So we have the flash here, things were a bit too yellow, then they got whiter, and we actually have more shots, but those are kept separate. I'm going to show them to you when the full text review comes. So things to remember here: a bit dark, okay, street light halos, some yellow and pink hues, a bit foggy every once in a while, but okay clarity. Some artifacts will appear from reflections, and when I try to zoom in, I was actually not that impressed. Not very convincing for a flagship. I remember that back in the day the Lumias were better at night. I'm pretty sure that right now a Lumia 950 can give this phone a headache with its quality, even after quite a few years. Once again, I would compare it to the Zenfone 4. It's inferior to the Galaxy S7 even, and maybe even the LG G6. I would say that it fights the Galaxy A8 2018, which I recently tested, but even that one feels slightly better in low light conditions. We are done with the photos, and as you can tell, I'm a bit disappointed. I wanted more. It's a flagship, it's Nokia, it's got tradition, but doesn't quite deliver. So in the video area, MP4 Full HD, 30 frames per second, 20 megapers bitrate, and we started off with an optical image stabilization test. Basically, we walked around, and the best thing about filming is the fact that OZO capture with 360-degree audio actually works. It's quite nice. Pretty nice exposure change. There is no refocusing when walking around. Yes, there's a bit of shakiness, but I've seen worse, so stabilization is just okay. Doesn't win awards, it's no Xperia, it's there. Okay, let's see another video with more color. Pretty good details, nice color calibration, no refocusing. And in general, if you film in 4K with this phone, you cannot go wrong. So if you keep it 4K, it's on par with any flagship you want, with the iPhones, with the Galaxy S's, with the Galaxy Notes. Only the dynamic range may pose problems at the time. Other than that, I'm reasonably happy with the filming, and believe it or not, I'm even okay with the 4K video capture with the front camera, which I should be able to find here somewhere. Here we go. Front camera, 4K, pretty good for vloggers. Background may not be much, a bit blurred actually, but overall feels pretty okay. So now let's see other videos. I know I missed one. So for example, this one here actually shows you a very burnt area around here below the trees, beneath the trees where the sun could be. So that's one of the problems of the camera. However, we remain with the good colors, pretty okay details. And also, one of the last videos I took was a bit burnt, and this happens on a sunny winter day. Imagine what happens during the summer. Not a very good promise. Things to remember: good 4K, okay details, okay colors, and I would say even surprising 4K video capture for the front camera. Still a bit below the iPhones overall. This is daytime video capture. Let's go to the low light video capture. Looks like this. It's quite dark. Halos are okay, stabilization not that bad. You also have object tracking, which was fine. You'll see it in a separate video once we get it. Okay, so other conclusions: good microphone during the day and during the night, no refocusing, okay colors, good stabilization, and actually not bad, but also no champion. It's below the Sonys and the Samsungs out there, also below the iPhones, and the standouts are the 4K microphone, colors, details maybe, and the selfie in 4K. That's all about the camera and the videos and all that. Now let's go to the other aspects like the browser and connectivity. Now, as far as the web browser is concerned, we're running on Chrome here, and let's access gsn.com. So this phone is fully featured with stock software, and of course Chrome is part of the experience. It achieved some pretty good benchmarks, talking about Sun, Spider and the other tests. You're going to see them in the full text review, and here you can see the keyboard endowed with swipe and being pretty comfy and fast. Now that the browser is done, then talk about the connectivity. So we have here GPS and also GLONASS. We obviously have LTE. It's LTE category 9 in case you were wondering, which means that on paper you should be able to achieve up to 450 Mbps downloads, 50 Mbps uploads. Now we also have Bluetooth 5.0, Wi-Fi AB, GNAC with MIMO, GPS, GLONASS, BDS, NFC, ANT+, and 3 microphones. Now at the bottom you can find the USB Type-C port, and also at the top there is the audio jack, so luckily they did not leave that out. It's actually USB Type-C 3.1 generation 1 with a promise of 5 GB/s transfers. Now the phone comes in two versions. One is a nano SIM, single SIM one, and one is a dual SIM version. There's no FM radio in case you're wondering, and the calls were pretty loud and clear. The microphone was actually very solid and the voices were natural. Now it's time to talk about the connectivity, and to do that I'm going to use a bunch of speed tests, and here we go. So the screenshots are here, and these are the speed tests results we achieved. So a top result of 289 Mbps downloads on Wi-Fi, 25 Mbps uploads, and on 4G 96/49 in download and upload respectively. The Wi-Fi results are great, but the 4G ones, well, expected a bit better from a flagship. Time to discuss the software. Initially the phone was launched with Android 7.1.1, and now we're running on Android 8.0 Oreo. I have to admit, it got updated very fast. The software is stock, clean, fluid, fast, no bloatware, nothing like that. And we also have the promise of very fast updates in the future. So this is supposed to be one of the first phones to receive Android P, whatever its name would be, maybe Peppermint, maybe Pineapple, who knows. Anyways, among the features on offer here, we have glance. As you can see, it's showing me the time, notifications, missed calls, and all that. That's glance in a nutshell, basically always on display. Multitasking happens via carousel, and also you can do the split screen thing, where you can have some Chrome web browsing here, and at the same time you can make a phone call if you want to and browse the web. So that's only one example of split screen multitasking. The leftmost home screen is dedicated to the Google Now feed, which you can see here with a variety of topics. You can see your Super Bowl scores, your favorite news, or the weather. And then if you press the home screen, you'll be able to trigger a bunch of wallpapers, widgets, and settings. Wallpapers are here, pretty typical and pretty good looking. Then we have the widgets, which are those ones, and they're also stock. Nokia has not added anything. And finally the settings related to the app suggestions, Google app, icon shape, and the version. Now the drop down area is very clean. It includes the notifications and also the quick settings, and typical for Oreo, it has this extra setting shortcut here. We have a lot of quick settings to access here, including one for battery saver, screenshot, data saver, and more. And of course you can edit them and choose which ones to replace via drag and drop. Pretty clean area here. And now we go to the other options, the settings area. Once again, a stock affair. Options for connectivity, apps and permissions, battery, display, sound, storage, security and location, user and accounts, and more. Now it's time to configure and check out the security, and I'm talking about the fingerprint scanner for one. Okay, so we choose fingerprint, set up screen lock,
combine it with a pin, use the simple pin. Okay, done. Confirm the pin and add fingerprint. I have to say this process is kind of long, certainly longer than I've seen on most phones, be they flagship or non-flagship. Actually a bit annoying at times, the length of the process, and the actual sensor is kind of small, so it's hard to actually put your finger where they want it. Okay, still trying to do it, lots of steps, maybe 20 or something like that. Here we go. Fingerprint has been added. Now let's see if we can also unlock it just as fast. Took a while, I would say reasonable speed, but we expect maybe a millisecond faster from a flagship. In the end it's okay, but the setup is a bit annoying because it's quite long. Now that the settings are done and dusted, it's time to see what the applications are like. As you can see, it's all stock affair. I counted 26 apps here. I'm talking about typical stuff. You got your calculator, you got your calendar, you got your Chrome. Let's see what else. Clock, contacts, drive, duo, files, which it's supposed to be a new thing. And then we got Gmail, Google, Maps, Hangouts. And we also have the Play Suite, the Photos, Phone, Play Store, Settings and YouTube. As I said before, everything is stock, clean, clear, fluid, no bloatware. So that's about it. We have reached the end of the review for the Nokia 8, the first flagship from the HMD Global age. Now on the Pro side, we have the compact and premium build, a pretty bright screen, solid performance all around, including in benchmarks. I would say that the video playback time is quite okay. The speaker at the bottom is very loud. The colors and details are okay when taking pictures. The microphone is actually very good in both phone calls and video capture. I'm loving the 4K filming with the front camera, with the back camera. The clean UI and no bloatware are also pluses, and the connectivity was quite okay in my book when it comes to the speeds and all that. Those are the pros. On the cons, well, the phone is not fully waterproof. It's got some cold colors for the display, and the PC Mark result for the battery did not exactly impress me. The selfies were a bit underwhelming, and so were the pictures and videos overall. The bokeh was actually a bit of a letdown, you know, the portrait mode. Somehow I expected a bit more from that capture. Fingerprint scanner has a setup that's annoying and too long, and also I would say that the phone feels a bit small nowadays and with big bezels compared to current standards. In the end, it does remain an elegant, compact and very powerful handset, still the only one on the market to be a flagship with Zeiss optics, and even though the camera is not what I expected, it does have its strong suits, like the acoustic capture is very hard to be equaled by rivals, so if you're going to concerts, this may just be the phone to get. It's basically a media phone, offers long Netflix playback, good concert capture, and also has very solid acoustics. So if you're an audiophile, surprisingly this is the phone for you. And if you're also filming your face as a vlogger in 4K with the front camera, that's the niche it's targeted to. If you're the average user who wants a powerful and relatively cheap flagship phone with a Snapdragon 835, this is also for you, but you will be making some camera and battery compromises, which other companies are not. So this has been the review of the Nokia 8 here at gsnhome.com. Bye bye.